Hello everyone, welcome back. Today's cards involve watercolor pencils and some really cute red rubber stamps. If you've never tried watercolors but you're interested in trying out this medium, the watercolor pencil medium is a great place to start. First, let me show you the adorable stamps I'm going to be working with today. These stamps are from the spring collection by Mouse House Designs. This first one is called Popping By, and the second one is called Bouquet for You. These are only 2 of the 6 that they have at the Spellbinders shop. They were designed especially for Spellbinders. I'll pull out an A2 sized panel just to give you an idea of their size. So they could work vertically or horizontally on a 5.5 by 4.25 inch panel. They each come with 2 sentiments. You could, of course, use whatever medium you want to color these adorable mice, but I was eager to use my watercolor pencils on these. I'm going to be using some Arches Hot Press watercolor paper. The Hot Press is a nice, smooth paper, and the pencils I'm using are from Faber-Castell. It's their watercolor pencils. I love these. These are my favorites. Okay, so I already pulled out a few colored pencils that I want to use to color in my first scene. And I'm going to be using a water brush, which has water in the barrel of the brush. So these are the pencils that I selected. I'll be pulling out a few more pencils as needed. But let's go ahead and stamp out the image. I'll be stamping it out with some VersaFine Onyx Black ink. This is a great ink for watercolors because it won't smear or melt away with the water. I do end up stamping this out several times. I think I need to re-ink this ink pad, but here it is, all ready to go. These red rubber stamps just stamp out beautifully, and there's so much detail to this image. Let me hold this up so you can get a good look at how it's stamped out. It's so pretty. So these are the colors that I'm working with. I'm mixing 2 colored pencils to get a blend. I wanted my orange to be kind of more of a reddish orange, and then I chose 2 greens to blend together. It just adds a richness to the color. So I'll let me zoom in here, but I'm going to be adding my light orange first. I'm going to go over the whole poppy with this color. And then next I'm going to be using the red, the darker red, and I'm just putting this pencil down where I want some shadows. Now I can add the water, and this is so much fun to do. It just makes everything vivid and bright. You have to be careful not to pull the dark color over the light color because it will take over. And then you can even go tip to tip with these pencils to add more color. Because while it's wet, you don't want to add it to the paper because it could rip the paper. So I'm just taking the ink right off the tips of these pencils. Let's color in another one. This time I'm coloring in the dark red first, and then the orange, or the light orange. Doesn't matter which you do first. And now I'm blending this out, just again being careful not to let the dark red overtake the orange. This will dry back a bit lighter, so if you want to come in with another layer after it has dried, you could do that to make it a little bit darker. Now for my 2 greens, just blending them right on top of each other. Next, I'll work on the mouse, and I'm going to use a yellow ochre pencil first, and then a brown. The yellow ochre just adds kind of a brightness to the image, or a warmth. Then I can go ahead and blend him out. I love this poppy image. The poppy flower is one of my favorites. I'm adding a little bit of pink to his feet. I allowed my image to dry completely, and then I did cut it down a little bit so that I can have a red mat around it. This color is called Poppy Fields from Spellbinders. And then I'm going to use a lot of dot liner. I'm going over the complete surface of the back of this panel. It did warp a little bit. I added some light blue to the background. And with all of the water I added to it, it did warp. I stamped out the sentiment onto another piece of watercolor paper, And the first time I stamped it, it was a little crooked, so I'm covering it up with a cutout. I added a few blue sequins, and here is a close-up look at the finished card. This image was so much fun to paint. And now on to card number 2. So this mouse, he looks like he's holding some little crocuses. I like a purple crocus, so I'm going to be adding a light purple and a dark purple over these flowers, and then blending them out. The paper I'm using this time is different. It is from Arteza, and it has a lot more texture to it. I'm using the same pencils, and these Faber-Castell pencils just melt out beautifully with the water. I love these pencils. This time the mouse is going to be a little bit darker. He's pretty fast to color in, and I love all of the fur, the texture on this mouse. I'm using the same brown to color in his feet, hands, and tail. And then I'll put a little bit of pink inside his ear and add that over the brown on his feet and tail. These pencils are very pigmented, so sometimes I have to wipe off a little bit of the color. I went ahead and colored in the rest of the crocuses, and now I'm just going to blend them with the water, just melt them out, and I will speed this up so that we're not here all day. It's just fun to see how vibrant they get when you add water on top. Of course, you don't have to use water. They look beautiful with just the pencils. But I can never resist adding water when I use these watercolor pencils. And again, I'm trying to preserve the light purple and not let the dark purple overtake the flowers. And again, I'm taking some color right off the tip of this dark pencil to add more shading. I like a lot of contrast, and the contrast is what really makes these flowers pop. I'm going to add a little bit of yellow in the centers of some of these flowers. Then I'm going to work on the greens a little more, adding more shadows to these. And then I'll set this aside to dry once I'm done. I cut this panel down a little bit as well so that I could have a purple matting behind it. And I'm using, again, a lot of dot liner behind this. So I'll center this on the purple cardstock. I already stamped and embossed my sentiment with some white embossing powder. I'm attaching it to the card with more dot liner. And then I will go back and add a few purple sequins around the sentiment. Let me just trim off the overhang here. And here is a close-up look at card number 2. I'll have the links to these adorable red rubber stamps listed in my description box in case you want to check them out. And here are both of the finished cards. They're nice and flat and easy to mail out. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope I encouraged you to try some watercolor pencils. They are so much fun to play with. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Bye.